we are going to move on to our 10:15 a.m. item, 6.10, public hearing. Receive public comments regarding the application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development fiscal year 24 pathways to removing obstacles to housing PRO housing grant. And welcome Director Turner and team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mireya Turner, Community Development Director.
Thank you.
After a heavy morning, I feel like this is a fun thing. This is a light and easy thing to talk about. A federal competitive grant application for up to $7 million to support our pro-housing efforts in Lake County. I will turn it over to our Deputy Administrator, Shannon Walker-Smith, and our Staff Services Analyst, Damian Marks, who have been working on this most diligently for the last couple weeks. As you'll note in the agenda, this is a pretty beefy application. So there's been a lot of thought, a lot of talk, and a lot of writing that's gone into it. We did miss a detail that I will cover after the presentation that we can see if we can work through. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We came before the board a few weeks ago to start the initial discussions about this grant application. And since that time, we have been working with our partners, both the housing office in admin with Lisa Judd pretty extensively, and then our community-based organization partners, NCO, and Lake County Community Foundation. I'm missing one of their letters. Lake County Community Foundation, LCCF. So we have back before you today a confirmed budget and updated executive summary. This is a public hearing for this grant, so we will take any public comment and then we also have the grant narrative posted on the CDD site with a link to a survey for public comment as well. We'll be incorporating all that public comment into the final draft of the narrative, which is why you don't have that final narrative draft in front of you today. But you do have a confirmed budget and updated executive summary. When we last spoke about this grant, not too much has changed in terms of what we were scoping. We have, you'll see in the confirmed budget, we have outlined 3 positions, 3 County of Lake positions that would be added, 2 to the housing office and 1 to CDD if we were to receive these grant funds. And these staff positions would be critical to the development of this housing program. So one would be a development liaison. That person would be kind of the face of the county in terms of working with developers and trying to bring those developers in to do affordable housing development in the county. And then another position would coordinate the rehabilitation part of the Regional Housing Trust Fund, and utilizing funds from this grant would develop a rehabilitation grant program where we would offer low and moderate income residents the opportunity to apply for grant funds to do code improvements on their homes and bring them up to code. And then there would be a senior planner that would be dedicated for housing. So that person would walk any housing projects that would come to the planning division through step by step through that process, and liaison with our building department as well. So that developers and people looking to build housing in this community would have a much more seamless process. Additionally, there is quite a pot of money for the actual rehab. So working with NCO's build program, the grant funds would support a position in their program for kind of a tier 2 of their current program. And so that graduates from their current program could graduate up to this tier 2 program. These grant funds would support the position that would oversee that tier 2 program, and those builders would do this rehab work in the community. So grant funds would both support the position through a direct MOU with NCO, but then the rehab funds that are in this grant, the work would primarily be done through NCO's build program as well. Yes, and the total for the rehab pot of money is $22,275,000. So that would go a long way in bringing some of our housing stock that is starting to show signs of wear back up to livable standards. Additionally, we have another $2 million in the grant to provide construction loans for new development. That would be administered through the administration office and the Regional Housing Trust Fund. And then the County of Lake, one of the things about this grant is order to get full points, which is what would get us funded in a national competitive grant, we have to offer up an in-kind match, or in this grant, it's referred to as leverage. And so detailed in the budget and then also in the letter that Director Turner is going to address in just a moment, we have outlined the additional staff time that would be dedicated to the project as in-kind match. And then the $2 million that the board has already put in trust for the Regional Housing Trust Fund, that would become matched to this program as well. So we are going to outline a letter of commitment that we need the board to sign in support of that in-kind match. There's another piece of this grant that we wanted to do a little bit of explaining about. So there are opportunity zones that have been identified by HUD through a combination of factors outside of our control. And they're really looking at factors where there are communities where housing is a little bit more expensive, or they see those communities as a little bit more affluent based on data. And they deem those communities opportunity zones for affordable housing as an equity move, right? So they look at communities where there is quite a lot of housing stock, and there's opportunity for more, and especially opportunity for affordable housing. They say that those opportunity zones are also close to infrastructure and transportation. And so the opportunity zones that were identified in this grant, in these grant materials, were in Cobb, Spring Valley, and the Kelseyville Riviera. Based on local knowledge, we know that whatever data set they have put together to identify those communities, our local knowledge says those might not be the best communities for affordable housing due to lack of closeness to infrastructure and transportation. And so we are dedicating in this grant, we're required to explore those communities as opportunity zones for affordable housing, and we will do so, and we're committed to do so if we were to receive these grant funds. But we also will utilize our local knowledge and work with partners to identify communities that will be best suited for more affordable housing development. So that's what the opportunity zones, and that's why those three communities are kind of highlighted in the narrative of this application, because we are required to address that in order to get those points for this narrative.
And these are different than the tax reform opportunity zones for economic development. These are housing opportunity zones. Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right.
So with that, we can open it up to your questions, or do you want to talk about the letter No.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
But
let's talk
before
about the
we
letter first.
talk about the letter, I want to check in with County Council and make sure, because we are trying to navigate through what was originally uploaded and what is being asked of us, and want to make sure that County Council can check in and let us know on how we got to maneuver through this.
So it was referenced or alluded to that, I think back on September 24, the Community Development Department presented to your board recommended action to apply for this specific grant, the grant that's being discussed today under this public hearing. So that was back in September 24, 2024. It does talk about that grant, which your board approved for Community Development Department to apply. Did discuss the match requirement, which, as I understand this letter, is that's the main topic of this letter that's before your board today. So it does flow from that September 2024 board approval to apply for the grant. It flows from the application of the grant, and what's before your board today as part of the public hearing is, as it's referenced here, public hearing is for gathering public input to inform the final application. So it is part of that process, and for further clarification, I believe Director Turner has indicated or will indicate that this letter of support that's being proposed for your board's consideration or approval would be made a part of that application. So for purposes of this agenda, this particular agenda item, your board may post a copy of this letter of commitment, and your board also may also has the option of reading through the letter so that the public would then be apprised of the contents of that letter.
Okay. And there was word earlier about a resolution. There's no resolution. It's just a letter?
Correct.
Correct.
Okay. Director Turner.
Thank you. I do appreciate County Council Quintavano's presentation of walking us through that. At the last board meeting where we discussed this, we appreciated the board's support for submitting the application, authorizing the deputy administrator to sign the application. We appreciated the discussion of what can the board do to express its strong support for this grant application. What we missed, what was inadvertently omitted, was the presentation of the letter. This isn't so much a letter just of support, but it's rather a letter that is consistent to the mechanics that are already included in the grant application of a letter of commitment to the financial and non-financial support, which, as Ms. Walker-Smith has discussed, is included both with leveraging our housing trust fund as well as providing significant in-kind matches of staff time and resources. So this letter of commitment is a part of the grant that is required. It was posted or added to the agenda online to be available to the public this morning, which is just moments before we gave it to the board.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Anything
you.
further before we open it up for questions and comments from board members?
I was just going to say that I mentioned last time we were here that we had to play with the numbers. We needed, in order to get all the points that we can get, we have to provide a 50% leverage. So that required us to really look at what we could leverage against what we could apply for. So the number that we landed on, should we receive these funds, will be $5.8 million.
Thank you very much for that clarification. Comment, questions, Supervisor Green?
Yeah, I'm actually, to County Council's point, so I'm looking at what was posted, and I'm also looking at what was handed out. So in addition to the letter of commitment, it looks like the spreadsheet amounts have changed from what was just handed out. So I guess my question is, if we're supposed to accept public input on the final plan, what was posted is not the final plan, right? And even if we subsequently post the letter of commitment, it looks like the spreadsheets have changed. So is this the final plan in my hand, and can this be posted to clarify to the, you know, it just seems kind of messy. I'm not saying the changes are bad, but if that's the requirement to accept public input on a final plan, what I'm seeing before me is not that, so.
So on the 24th, we posted a draft narrative and budget. And now we've been receiving input on that budget and narrative. And we had to finalize the budget between the 24th and now in order to get the numbers into the letter of commitment for today. So that budget is finalized. Should we receive any public comment or any comment from the board today, we would move, numbers around within the budget, but we are landed now on a final number. But that is the way this process kind of works, is that we draft, an idea, and then we accept the input. And over these couple of weeks, we've been getting closer and closer to a final version. Public comment doesn't close until end of business tomorrow, so we won't be finaling any of the draft narrative pieces until we have received all the public comments so that we can include those items in the grant narrative.
So I'm unclear. What you just handed today is final?
The budget is final.
Okay, but this is not what is posted online at this point?
Correct. A draft of the budget was posted on the 24th to receive feedback on. But because of the timelining of this grant, we had to move to a final budget draft to get you the letter of commitment today, because it includes the numbers from that.
Okay. Last comment, just from a recovering newspaper guy. As an editor, when you look at the bottom of a page and you see a headline for something that's going to go on the next page, we call those orphans. So in this draft document, I see a lot of orphans that could be cleaned up, but that's just me.
And if possible, let's go ahead and upload the final budget as well, just so that the public is well aware. But I think today the letter is what we're approving. We're not approving the budget per se. And in the letter itself, it has the descriptions of all the things that are needed to be able to move forward. This is our second discussion regarding this topic. And I know that time is of the essence, and so we're trying to maneuver it in a appropriate way, and I appreciate County Council helping us find that way, but I'm comfortable moving forward today, but let's go ahead and upload that so that others can review it and take a look at it. Any other questions or comments? Supervisor Pyska?
Well, this is critical work to get our housing stock back up to a standard where people should be able to live, especially given our climate challenges and with the amount of fires that we've had in the last month, and going out and seeing the amount of code violations and how difficult it is for folks to get their homes into compliance. This is needed because with the home hardening program, for example, you cannot participate in that program if you have any outstanding code violations. And that is a significant issue in the Kelseyville Riviera, where even if you have a deck that was built without a permit, you cannot participate in that program. And in looking in the city of Clear Lake and with the Boyles fire, that was one of the communities that we had looked at for home hardening. And that's one of the conversations that I've been having for a long time, is what is the pre-program or what is the wraparound? How do we get compliance? Because we can't move forward without compliance to make those other improvements. So I really hope we get this. Thank you for working hard and bringing this forward. I know it's a big push.
Thank you. I did want to say that it's not explicitly outlined in the budget of this grant. It'll be outlined a little bit more in detail in the narrative, but we also received a CDBG grant that will be starting in roughly January that has a code enforcement piece for substandard housing. And so we couldn't use the CDBG funds as leverage for this grant because it's the same pot of money. But we will be pairing, should we receive these funds, we would pair this program with that program. The code enforcement officers that will be working through the CDBG funds will be out working in the community with property owners, helping to identify these homes and doing the education and support to those property owners with a very light touch and trying to get them referred to this grant program should we be funded. And I think that's going to make a really beautiful partnership and could really start to make a difference on this housing stock.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the only way we move forward, is layering all these opportunities, weaving them together. We have such an old stock of housing that without this attention, we're just deferring the problems longer down the road.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? I am so glad that you explained the opportunity zone, because that was really confusing to me, especially where we came from is a completely different world than where we're going or where we should be heading, at least my own personal vision of where we should be heading, because 2 out of the 3 are not community growth boundaries. 2 out of the 3 are struggling to get insurance at this moment in time. And the access to services different between all 3, but definitely didn't make sense to me when I was reading through it that if this is truly our focus, I'm not understanding how this works. So thank you so much for that explanation. One of the things, just to at least help with the bigger puzzle, because this is a puzzle piece. Obviously, getting grant funding to get the capacity to be able to process and maneuver through some of the processes that developers have to go through when they come to your counter, absolutely 100%. I know that we have, I'm going to say the wrong thing, Deputy CAO, Lisa Judd, who's working on a strategic plan currently for housing. This will help to execute that strategic plan. This is not the plan that's going to build the houses. This is the plan that's going to allow for those things to happen. Your general plan status is perfect opportunity to ensure that we are delivering the right zoning opportunities for these things. So I think it's perfect timing. I don't want to go through your budget and tell you where to change things. I think I need to see how it functions, and I'm sure that you're going to be seeing some amendments in the future as you come to realize exactly how things are working. But I hope that we find the right opportunities and the right ways to focus. I think people should be able to build houses wherever they want, but the work we're doing really should be focused on the places that are going to be the most conducive to safe and productive environments, and so on and so forth. So,
Well,
happy.
I just want to add that also these 2 communities have suffered loss of housing stocks too. So we have to remain committed to bringing those communities back and the housing back there.
And I think that comes with difficulties. It's not to say that it shouldn't happen. It just, I think we're, as it says in the beginning of it, urgent crisis of housing, and we need to choose the paths of least resistance before we choose the paths of the most hardship, and that will not appeal to everybody for sure. So that's what I have to say. Let's open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to speak on this item? Please come on up.
Hello, my name is Derek Fiedler. I'm the project manager of the BUILD program. I just wanted to leave a quick comment and just say how grateful we are. My coworker, he's the crew coach, Mr. Mike Willis. He's the one that is the lead mentor for developing our student workers that are in our program right now, that are doing work in our community at work sites all around Lake County. This is an exciting time for us because this takes us to that next step where we're no longer just working during the few months of a semester system twice a year. This can help fill in those gaps to where we have closer to a year-round, longer-term opportunity to not just provide that next level of experience and training for our builders, but to also get more work done in Lake County. And that's what we're after. That's why we named our program Building Up Individuals and Local Developments. We want to see industries and housing grow in Lake County, and we also want to provide work opportunities to those crews that are doing the work. And so very excited about this. Thank you very much for all the hard work and putting it together, and looking forward to what's to come.
Thank you for your comment. Any other comments? Come on up.
Joan Moss. I'm hearing a lot of ideas and about loans, and I want to know when these poor people who don't have any money to start with are going to be required to pay back the money they get, and how the whole thing works. It's very confusing. We've heard people who are protesting. They got what they wanted. The supervisors rescinded an ordinance, and we're left with nothing. And the people are left with nothing. So I don't know why you call it loans. You know, maybe it's a gift. Older people who don't have any money are going to get a loan and get everything fixed. And then how do they pay it back?
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, the rehab part of this grant proposal is a grant program, not a loan program. So in the case of the rehabilitation pot of money that we have in this program, the admin office and the Regional Housing Trust Fund that Lisa Judd is working so hard to establish, they would administer small grants to homeowners, money that would not need to be paid back for rehabilitation of their properties. There is a loan piece in here as well. That the loan piece would be for developers to do large development.
It's very important that you make it clear that it's a grant. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your response. Any other questions, comments? I see none in the Zoom room and no further comments in the chamber, so I'll bring it back to the board. Real quick before we take action, I just wanted to make one last comment, something that concerns me in the difficulties of housing development, and that's our fees. And I'm not talking about us as the county, I'm talking about all of the fees. We just received letters. Some of the schools have gone to the next level where I think it's now $5.14 or 19 cents since the state has allowed that extra increase. Rightfully so, they can do that. But all of those fees keep adding up to what the total amount is at the bottom line to get that done. I don't see that being discussed within the document. I may have missed it, but I didn't see that. And I hope it's something we keep an eye on to figure out how can we help with some of those things to make it more conducive so that we don't have to keep giving grants, we don't have to keep giving loans where people are just coming here and wanting to build because it makes sense and it pencils out. It feels like I may have missed it.
No, and part of, and I apologize, I'm trying to dig in so I can have exact amounts for you, but there is an allocation in the budget to help.
You could speak right into the mic, please.
Sorry. There is an allocation in the budget to help with those fees for developers, to help ensure that developments that are dedicated to affordable housing will have reduced fees, reduced timeframes for their building, helping their overall cost. I apologize, I don't have.
But I appreciate that that obviously is on your mind. You've thought about that. You're looking, and to me, that's a temporary solution. Granted, this is a 5-year grant that would help out during that term. I hope that within that time frame, we're able to figure out how do we continue to make that be an incentive for people to continue to work and develop here in Lake County. So appreciate that that's on your mind as well. I wanted to make sure and make up a comment to that. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, so just to clarify, we do have $150,000 currently dedicated to fees associated with those developments for affordable housing.
Thank you very much. All right, coming back to the board, and we have a letter before us that requires action.
What would be the action?
Your board may move to approve the letter of commitment for financial and non-financial support of Pro Housing Grant Project.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.